The Life After Death, from Danielle. My name is Danielle. I'm a newer listener to the podcast and truly love the show. Lately, I've been having this almost nagging feeling/interest for paranormal spooky stories and searched online and found your show. It's so entertaining, informative, and lighthearted in a way that just kept me coming back for more. Also, when listening to my first episode on your page, I was pleasantly surprised and proud that you promote the importance of mental health and that you are not alone, especially as men. I was hooked. I've been kind of shamelessly binging all the episodes since then. I listened to your most recent episodes first, then did a deep dive back to the beginning to start from the bottom up. I just finished listening to your Mythical Dreams and Crossing Over episodes, and I'm feeling compelled to share my own story. One of grief and loss, messages from the beyond, acceptance, and peace. I am now wondering if the nagging feeling I've had lately to search for a page such as yours is coming full circle. And I'm starting to think it wasn't totally a happenstance thing, but potentially an opportunity to share a story I've kept very close to myself for about 12 years now. I'd love to share with you, because I think we can connect together about it better than I could with others, both on the paranormal side and on the mental health side. I'd like to advise that there is a trigger warning of suicide to any reader and listener. Here's my story. To set the tone and background, I grew up in a very strict Christian Baptist home with many of the traditional values. This story takes place when I was around 16 years old, when I had reached the peak of my personal understanding and beliefs with religion. Unfortunately, my upbringing with organized religion was of a very black and white, scare tactic-like nature that didn't allow for open conversations or questions about challenging things. Due to this, I didn't really have any feelings about the spooky and unexplainable things or the complexities of life, but this was definitely an altering experience. So I was 16 years old, lucky to not have had any negative life-changing experiences so far, and dating my then boyfriend. He was my first boyfriend, and we dated in high school, and as high school sweethearts tend to be, I was convinced he was the one, and that this was it. He was 2 years older than I, and we had been together for 2 years at that point. He was getting ready to head off to his first year of college while I was finishing up high school. Of course, with this change, he was going through some difficulty with his mental health, but unfortunately, he had kept the severity of the situation mostly to himself. I also was too young at the time to understand or to know what signs to look for or to offer much help/support, other than listening to what he would open up to me about. After some time, treatment with medication, and general struggle with his mental health, he took his own life at 2 a.m. on a summer morning, July 2012. It happened via car accident that came across as that, an accident, but some details of the accident and his injuries pointed towards suicide. I also had this gut feeling about it that would just not go away. I was lucky enough to have never experienced death before this, so I was beside myself with grief, shock, anger, and a mixture of every other emotion crammed together. In the days leading up to his wake/viewing, I emotionally was spiraling. I was devastated, felt alone, felt hurt that he didn't say goodbye, anger, confusion, and an overwhelming sense of sorrow that he was suffering even in death, as strict Baptist Christian teachings stated that taking your life is a heavy sin. I was angry that that's what I believed at the time, that my religion wasn't a source of comfort during this time. Because what else is a young, sheltered girl of organized religion supposed to turn to in a time of crisis? The way I resorted to dealing with these feelings early on was simply not to deal with them at all, by sleeping. If I was awake, I could do nothing but cry and word vomit out loud the mess that was in my mind, directed at him as if he could hear me. My religion said he couldn't, because he committed. On a particularly hard evening, I was in bed, crying, when I finally, deeply, pleaded a request. If you can hear me or see me, please find a way to tell me you are okay. You're not in pain. You're not suffering. I can't continue on like this. I made the request to be something both undeniable and the first thing that came to my mind. I said, "Call my phone. Please keep in mind, during the days of his death to his wake and funeral, his personal belongings, including his phone, were tied up with the local police department as they completed their investigation into the crash and cause of death." As strangely grotesque as this is, I imagine it was in a clear plastic evidence bag. If not that, maybe something else. But I knew for a fact his phone had not yet been given to his family. So there I was, alone in my room, grieving, request tearfully pled out loud and within my mind. I lay down to sleep, and I did. When I woke, it was to my phone vibrating. Thinking it was someone else reaching out to check on me, forgetting my request, I lazily looked at it. To my shock, his name was on my caller ID. In the span of what was truly a few seconds but felt like forever, I quickly began thinking, how is this possible? Is a policeman or someone like that using his phone to contact me? That would be weird. My heart was beating 1,000,000 miles an hour to where my chest felt hollow. I answered the phone.
Hello?
I said quietly. On the other line was a soft, hum-like static, like from an old TV. I listened for a while, but there was nothing there.
Hello?
I said again, and nothing. I left the line open for a while, about 1 minute and 30 seconds, just to give my brain time to process what was happening and to rule out things like technology acting up or a poor cellular connection. But of course, the static didn't change. I hung up the phone then, sat for a long, long time, digesting what just happened. Admittedly, in my grief, I thought, no way, it was a fluke. If that was truly you, do it again. Hand on my heart, it happened again. My phone rang. It was his name on the caller ID, and it left a long voicemail with that same low, hum-like TV static. I believe from how deeply I felt my grief, my mind just wouldn't let me process what had happened for a long time and what it could possibly mean. On one hand, I got what I asked for, the assurance that he's okay and not suffering. On the other, it challenged my complicated relationship with religion and the complexities about that and life itself. I'm glad to say that now, 12 years later, I've been able to be deeply grateful for this experience, allow myself to understand how profound this experience actually was, and how equally unique it is to me, but also allows me to be a part of a bigger group in understanding that religion is not black and white, nor is life and life after death. I'd like to mention that despite this difficult loss, I went on to college to study mental health and psychology, and am now a mental health professional to help others during their struggles. My story with the unexplainable is sad, but hopefully one that may bring comfort to someone else out there that can relate on any level. I loved, I lost, I grieved, I found peace and happiness. Lastly, I have to add, I kept that phone he called me on all these years later because I wanted to keep that last connection we had. The 2 phone calls and voicemail. Would you believe me if I told you they both magically disappeared from that phone? As if it never happened? And Danielle, I have no words. That is a wonderful, heartbreaking story. And I want to say thank you for doing what you did with your life, because that is no small thing, to be able to take that pain and turn it into something really beautiful that helps enrich the lives of others that requires a reserve of strength that is not common. And I hope that you, in your quiet moments, you say that to yourself. You say, holy shit, I did this thing. And I helped make the world a better place. And I think in the end, that's all we can ask from each other. Any thoughts, Paul?
No, I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's something that we often find difficult to deal with, especially in the grieving process, when you are constrained by organised religion in regards to the way that some people leave this earth, to view them as lesser beings for some stupid, ignorant reason.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes it takes a terrible situation such as that to shake your mind free of the shackles and appreciate the reality of people. And so it's something that can completely shake your foundations on every level to make you realise of what you can do, and for it to then manifest itself in a way that seems as though they are reaching from the ether to offer comfort, especially on phones and things like that, because I always find encounters like this incredibly fascinating, even to to the extent of this one, that there's no communication other than it's that person ringing. And I think it's one of those strange things that I would imagine most people, or maybe not, maybe I'm being overly presumptuous. I've still got telephone numbers in my phone from people who have passed, and I can't delete them.
Sure.
And I don't know why. I don't know why. You know? It's a strange thing, I think. But for it to be able to help and heal and give someone the power to move forwards positively from such a shocking series of events, I think is testament to the message that was trying to be sent.
Yeah. I think it like I can't think of the right word, but it really, I think, does service to that in the best way possible. You know, you took that moment of connection between one world and another, and in your worst possible place, and again, you took it forward and you turned it into something beautiful, and like that. I just don't think there's any more. I don't think you can honor this person's memory in any better way. And you know, the fact that it's gone, I mean, who's to say? I mean, at this point, you know, we're way out on the fringes, but I mean, I wonder if it's because you don't need it anymore. You know, because for something like that to stick around past that point, it's just about proof, and proof is irrelevant because proof isn't going to matter to anyone you need to convince, right? Like the point of that was not to convince other people that life after death is real. The point of that was to get you to a place where you can stop other people from making that same mistake.
Yep. As many a person will say that's had a strange experience, I don't really care if you believe me or not, but I know I believe it, and that's all that matters.
That's it. So thank you again, Danielle. Again, that was just a beautiful, heartbreaking story, and we deeply appreciate you trusting us enough to share it.